news. So a ton to talk about. We have some college basketball, also some news in Major League Baseball and the W. And nothing more enjoyable than getting a chance to chop it up with one of our favorites here in Vegas. Obviously, Tim Unglesbee, Tom Barton do a great job with Heatwave Sports weekends, Saturday and Sunday, right here, 10 to midnight here in Vegas. But pinch hitting tonight, myself, Chris Winn. You can find me all over the dial. You can also find my co-host tonight all over the airwaves here in Las Vegas. He's also the founder of Straight Bet Sports here in town, Jose Vellante, joining me live here in studio. Jose, always great to have you as we get set to talk a little pigskin, my friend.
It's been a while, man. A lot of changes here in the studio. Like I said, when I got in here, a little bit of a facelift, but happy to be back, man. I know Chris, Tim and Tom out there not feeling too well, but hey, always happy to pinch hit, my man. You know that, like I like to call myself the sixth man, Sports Talk Radio here in Vegas. But I know we got a lot to talk about. I appreciate you bringing me in, but I'm ready to roll when you are, my man.
No question about it, right? And going into this championship Sunday in the NFL, we had narratives across the board, right? We had all kinds of storylines that people were talking about, both on the NFC side and the AFC side. And of course, when you get down to it, let's start off with the early game, right? Because on the NFC side of things, a little bit of surprise last week, I would say. It's fair to say, right? When you have the number one seed in the conference and the Detroit Lions going down to the Washington Commanders in the fashion that they lost. And you have a rookie quarterback, right? In Jade Daniels, who is at the helm for this Washington team, trying to become the first quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl as a rookie and lead his team to a Super Bowl. So that was one storyline, obviously, as well, too. And then, of course, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, right? A team that, battled a little bit of injuries this year. Still one of the top teams in the NFC without question, led by the likes of Jalen Hurts and an absolutely beyond monstrous season from the likes of Saquon Barkley, Jose. And so the Philadelphia Eagles take on their division rival, right, in Washington, in Philadelphia. Pretty nice Norman Rockwell type of day in Philadelphia compared to last week, right?
Yeah.
As it was pretty good football weather, as they say, up in the north and in the Midwest. And that was the case. And right from the jump, Mr. Vellante, it was a little bit of a surprise where this game went. Obviously, when we saw Washington get the opening drive, kind of methodical down the field, able to get the field goal right to start the game and get that 3-point lead. But it just took a matter of one play on offense for the Philadelphia Eagles to put on display what they've been able to do this season. And, of course, I'm talking about Saquon Barkley busting off a monstrous run that included a couple of spin moves and shaking tackles and takes it to the house to give Philadelphia that lead. And it continued throughout the rest of this football game, Jose, with Saquon Barkley with 3 touchdown runs in this game. And, of course, Jalen Hurts also 3 touchdown runs as well, too, for him in this football game. And it ends up being a game that was 34-22 at the end of the fourth quarter, ended 55-22. And the Philadelphia Eagles, for the second time in a handful of years, headed to the Super Bowl in a rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was an impressive fashion, Jose, how it went down today in the city of brotherly love. And Philadelphia just kind of flexed their muscles, particularly as far as their balance, both on the offensive side of the football and the defensive side of the football.
Not only that, you mentioned it, Chris. It was a close game there halfway through the game here. At halftime, it was, 27-15, I believe, only down 12. Not that much of a deficit. Washington still making a game of it there, but then Philly just had that big fourth quarter, man. 21 points in the fourth quarter, basically, like you said, just took over completely. And the big topic of conversation, Chris, obviously, you mentioned it, Saquon Barkley and what he did today, the 3 touchdowns. And obviously, all we heard about all season and all offseason is how bad are the New York Giants kicking themselves for letting Saquon basically walk out of the door, right?
Yeah.
But aside from that, you and I were talking about this before the show started. When is it time for finally that Nick Sirianni is about to get some credit? Or should he finally get some credit from whether it's the media or the fans out there in Philly? I get it. The Philly fans are tough. They're rough. They like to throw stuff in your face. They want to win. They want a winner now. They don't care if you go to the Super Bowl. It's about winning the Super Bowl. But this guy doesn't have a losing record, Chris, since he's been in Philly. He's now in the Super Bowl for the second time in the last 3 years, right? Everyone's going to say, yeah, it's Saquon. It's Saquon. I get that. You bring in a guy like Saquon, of course. But you still got to coach the team. They had turmoil midway through the season. You have issues with A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline now, trying to get his inner self or whatever the book was called. But this Philly team looks like they're ready to roll, Chris. They look like they're going to go into the Super Bowl and not lay down. I think it's going to be a completely different game from what we saw 3 years ago.
Well, you bring up Nick Sirianni, right? Look, he's not the guy that won that Super Bowl, right, for Philadelphia, right?
Correct.
Obviously, Andy Reid was the head coach. And so that is not looked at as the Nick Sirianni era in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, excuse me, Doug. My bad. And Andy Reid was in a Super Bowl loss. But the point being is that, he wasn't the guy, right? So he hasn't been the one to break that glass ceiling in Philadelphia as a head coach yet. And getting to a Super Bowl and not winning one, which they've done, gives him some credibility. Absolutely, it does. No question, right? But as you just pointed out, and as I pointed out to you before the show, this is Philly fan, okay?
Yeah.
And Philly fan is not necessarily – look, I don't think they're New York fan. I don't think that they are necessarily a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. They're not, but it's still Philly fan, okay? And they're not going to – and I know we're projecting forward into what's going to happen right in the game, but if the Eagles lose this game against Kansas City coming up, they're gonna respect Nick Sirianni, right? They're going to look at him. There's not going to be any calls for him to be booted out of town or anything like that. But there is going to be some hesitation with respect to tossing him a bunch of love. That's the way I'm going to put it, Jose, right?
Love.
There's going to,
Some
know what
Philly
I'm
love,
saying.
some Philly
There's
love.
going to be people out there, Eagle fan, okay, Eagle fan, Eagle fan, Flyer fan, Phillies fan. I mean, come on, it's all pretty much. It's all same. It's all Philly. It's all same. And they're not going to be, just dropping all kinds of love on Nick Sirianni if they get to the Super Bowl and lose. Now, look, the table can be turned, right, Jose?
Correct.
If they win the game, if they go and win the Super Bowl, then Sirianni's going to get a ton of credit, right? Now, look, you're going to be giving credit to, obviously, you're going to be giving credit to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley and a lot of these players on this kind of unheralded. Is that the right way to describe the Eagles' defense? Unheralded? Maybe, but, they don't get as much pub as the offensive guys do, right? And if the Eagles are going to beat the Chiefs, the defense is going to have to come to play. So there's going to be a ton of credit for Philadelphia there as well, too. But to get back to cap it off with when it comes to all things Nick Sirianni, this is a lot like when Pete Carroll was in Seattle, right, with the Seahawks, and before he won a Super Bowl, right? He got to add that kind of tag on him as far as his career goes, right? It's kind of the same thing with Sean Payton when he was in New Orleans, right, before the Saints won a Super Bowl and won their one Super Bowl, and of course it's kind of the same thing that happened with Tony Dungy in Indianapolis with the Colts. Yeah. So. I mean, I can see it coming. You can see it coming a mile down the road, right, Jose? As far as, should he get the credit? Yes. Is he going to get the credit? No, if they lose. But he'll get some credit. And if they win, obviously it's going to be one of those deals where any coach or any player who wins championships in certain scenarios, I'll say, like the 2016 Chicago Cubs, like the 2004 Boston Red Sox, like the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, right? Nick Foles, is in Eagle lore for the rest of his career. Wasn't a great quarterback.
Just for winning the Super Bowl.
There will be some of that reserved for Nick Sirianni, Jose Vellante, if they do win the Super Bowl.
So I got another question for you, Chris. Let's kind of flip it over and get away from the Eagles, but still stick to this game, right? Let's talk about Washington and the superstar quarterback that is there now, which is Jaden Daniels. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. You can go back to my previous podcast from over a year ago before the draft. I didn't think Jaden was going to be that guy. I really did not think he was going to be a great draft pick. I thought he would probably not even last that long in the NFL. I was wrong 100%. Obviously, we're seeing where he's at and what he's doing. This is the conversation that's out there, and I don't know if it's safe to say just yet because we did see what C.J. Stroud did last year. But in your opinion, based off of what Jaden Daniels did this year, the style of play that he had, the leadership that he had on the field, take away the statistics, Chris, the way he took over that locker room in year one with a year one coach, new ownership, right? Knowing that you're a rookie, coming in here knowing this history with this Washington organization and taking this team all the way to one win away from the Super Bowl, right? A la Mark Sanchez 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years in a row when he had with the Jets. I got to throw that out there. I'm a Jets fan. But Would you throw this out there as the greatest rookie season for a quarterback ever in the history of the NFL?
Wow, that's a tough call because there's been some just stellar statistical performances, right, when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously, sometimes we're victims of what we just last saw, right, and most recently saw.
Yeah.
And so it is impressive beyond all get out what Jalen Daniels has done in Washington. Okay, and when it comes to all things former Skins, right, now Commanders, all things Washington, everybody is looking up when it comes to Jalen Daniels as your quarterback. Because you know what? You guys have a good one. You got one that's going to be a franchise guy.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the quarterback position for the next 10 to 12 years, barring injury, when it comes to Jalen Daniels. All right. And that was a big time win a week ago in Detroit, a team that was the number one seed in the NFC, right? Had the best odds to win the Super Bowl, right? The Lions were the Super Bowl favorites before that game, all right? And you go in there, and they manhandled Detroit, right? And the Lions and their fans, we can use all kinds of excuses like, defensive injuries across the board and having, maybe too much time off and using that as an excuse. But you got to give credit where credit is due. And that is what Washington was able to do and go on the road and put up a 45 spot on Detroit and get that win. Now, it kind of flips in the situation in this game, right? Because their defense was nowhere near what it was against Detroit last week. And offensively, even though Jay Daniels had a decent game, right? Throws for over 260, had a touchdown, had a pick, didn't have a terrible QBR or anything.
Ran for 48 yards and got a touchdown.
Ran almost 50, right? Yeah. And Zach Ertz has a big game, right? Over 100 yards receiving for Zach. You got the touchdown, obviously with McLaurin, who is a guy that's kind of underrated and kind of unsung as far as the wide receiver position in the NFL.
Been there 6 years. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he is someone that just does not get a ton of press at all. But from a rushing standpoint, right, Jose, I mean, Jaden led them in rushing with 48 yards. And this season, when they were successful, right, Mr. Vellante, they were getting production from Brian Robinson Jr., right? They're getting production, obviously, from Austin Eckler, both catching the football in the backfield and also
running the ball. Definitely.
So that was not existent today in the game with Eckler and Robinson combining for, I believe, 50 yards total, right, on the ground. And so you're playing in a playoff game on the road against a division rival that was, in my estimation, at least the second best team in the NFC. And you can make the argument they were the best team in the NFC. That's not going to get it done, okay? And you're not going to be able to – so you have to – again, you can credit Philly's defense, right? But the Washington Commanders did not get anywhere near what they got against the Detroit Lions a week ago. And so that's why you kind of saw the lopsided score that you saw. And, and also I have a lot of friends, colleagues, people around who are Washington fans in both Las Vegas and around the country. And their idea of this is, hey, we lost to a better football team, but we're going to be back. And
there's hopes.
When you look at the NFC East, right, Jose, and you see kind of what's transpiring with those franchises in that division, obviously you're going to be pumped if you're the Eagles. And the Washington Commanders are right there, and they give the feel. I don't know about you, Jose. I'm asking you now. That they're the team that's right behind the Eagles, that has a chance to push Philadelphia in that division more so than the likes of the Cowboys and the Giants. Is that a hot take, or is that something that you could maybe get on board with?
You know what? After the Cowboys hired your boy Brian Schottenheimer, it changed everything. I'm sorry. When I heard about that hire, it's funny because we can kind of get into it with this because of that. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that, yes, Washington is the team right now that's going to be there to compete with the Philadelphia Eagles. Because let's be real. That Dallas Cowboy hire was more of a Jerry Jones going, I can still control this guy. He's not going to give me any issues. He's never been a head coach in this league. So I got a little bit of what I want here. He's not going to bring in a guy like Deion. I think the whole Deion thing was just the whole big hoopla just to make press and make publicity and kind of maybe sweep the whole Brian Schottenheimer thing under the rug and keep it quiet where no one knew about it. we see what's going on with the Giants. The Giants are on a full rebuild completely all the way around. We don't even know what to expect from them next year. I'm surprised that Dable is still there and the general manager, which is kind of surprising that the head coach and the general manager are still there as bad as they've been. But at the end of the day, the Washington, I gotta say Redskins. I can't say Commanders. I'm just so used to saying the Redskins.
So I got into it.
I know we're not supposed to do it.
But speaking of this, and I'll make a quick thing. I got on social media today, and there were some people that were chiming in and getting pretty hot, right? As far as taking the side of, it's so beyond racist and all this and that. And so it kind of went all back and forth. I don't need to get into all the dialogue about it. But the point being is that I basically agree with you is what I'm trying to say in a quick moment here. So let's do this. Let's go Heatwave sports style here on this because you brought it up. All right. So we're talking about the NFC Championship game. Let's talk about the NFC coaching hires because it matters, right? When we talk about the Chiefs and the Bills game, we'll get into the AFC side, which of course deals with the Las Vegas Raiders here in town, right? And a coaching hire that they made. There's also other coaches that got hired in the AFC that I want to bounce off you as well, too. Brian Schottenheimer, all right? Obviously, what has happened, Mr. Vellante, the last 2-3 weeks when it comes to all things Dallas Cowboys and the possibilities of hiring a head coach once it was decided that Mike McCarthy was not going to be the guy, all right? There was the chatter that everybody expected when it came to Deion Sanders, right? And the possibility of, reuniting him with his old team, right? In the Cowboy, one of his old teams, I should say. And him being the head coach. And then the possibility of wheeling and dealing and maybe somehow, some way, some possibility, Mr. Vellante, that he gets Shedeur Sanders in the, with via trade or via some situation in which Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders end up in Dallas. That doesn't happen, okay? And now they've hired Brian Schottenheimer as the guy. I bounced this off you. God. What was your reaction as someone who's not a Cowboys fan? As I am not a Cowboys fan, but I do follow the Cowboys with interest because they're in the NFC with my team, the Detroit Lions.
Correct.
Did this move the needle to Mr. Vellante hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
No, the Dallas Cowboys went backwards, absolutely backwards by hiring Brian Schottenheimer. And it even says it here on this tagline. I'm not going to say from one website, but it's literally what I just told you. Then I pulled it up. Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer shows Jerry Jones' priority is his own power. Jones made the comfortable move that likely won't cost him too much to replace McCarthy as the Cowboys coach, which is true if you think about that as well. All of the previous head coaches that Jerry Jones has had, he's had them at the end of their contract.
Yeah.
He doesn't renew them. He makes sure that he doesn't have to pay anyone that's no longer there. He doesn't like paying coaches if he's no longer going to have them there with the team. And to be honest with you, I think this was a horrible hire. I think this is just a power struggle, again, being shown by Jerry Jones. He knows nothing about football. He needs to find a way to step back, own the team, be the owner, but hire football minds if he wants this Dallas Cowboy franchise to get back to what it used to be. Because with all due respect, it is no longer America's team. I'm sorry, Cowboy fans.
Yeah.
Someone's got to say it. Cowboys are no longer America's team. But here's the thing, Chris. It's not going to cost them that much, right? If we're looking at the positives. It's only a 3-year deal. You still have Dak Prescott. You still have CeeDee Lamb under contract. But you're also a team that's going to be so strapped underneath the salary cap, it's going to be insane for you to try to make any type of moves to bring in anybody to work with this offense, to work with this defense. So now you as a head coach, you have to look at what you already have on paper, what's coming back, what can you do with this team, right? And at the end of the day, some people are saying, trade Dak. Try to trade Dak for the number 1 pick so you can get Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're not going to trade Dak Prescott. First of all, it's way too much money. No team's going to want to take that type of contract right now, especially with Dak coming off of an injury. Now, it all depends on what you're asking to give up. A number 1 pick overall, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. But at the end of the day, Chris, this is going to make the Dallas Cowboys go back. They will have another losing season next year. I don't see them doing anything with Brian Schottenheimer. It's going to be another circus, and it's not going to be good for Jerry. Because you know how Jerry gets when he gets mad. He loves to jump on radio. He loves to talk about all his Dallas Cowboy stuff. And it's going to be fun to watch. I'm sorry. I'm like Stephen A. Smith. I just love to watch the Cowboys crumble throughout the season because it's a great circus to watch, Chris. But Brian Schottenheimer, not a great hire at all, in my opinion.
I got to say, my initial reaction, right, when I heard about the hire, I was rolling into my other gig, and there is literally 3 or 4, 5 Dallas Cowboy fans that I work with. Not one person to a T, Jose Vellante, was all kinds of gassed up, all kinds of fired up, needle not moved by the hire of Brian Schottenheimer. Now, look, I get it, and there's calls if you jump on social media, jump in sports radio and television, talks of nepotism. Obviously, Brian Schottenheimer, the son, right, of Marty Schottenheimer, a longtime coach in the NFL, right? So, there's calls for that. But there's also this idea out there, and I happen to think there's something to it, that Jerry Jones wants a guy that's not a yes man, but it's almost like he wants a guy that he can mold, a guy that he can control, a guy that, that's kind of the way that Jerry Jones operates. And he's operated that way, since essentially, the 1990s. That's how he's operated. That's how he rolls, right? So, obviously Jimmy Johnson was a guy because he went to college with him, right, at Arkansas, and because they had a history. Jimmy's a guy that would push back, right? And I'm sure that even Barry Switzer was a guy that also probably pushed back, okay? Because there wasn't that age barrier, as much of an age barrier, I should say, with those guys as there is now, because you're talking about 30 years later, right? So there is kind of an element, I gotta believe, I just think it is true that the Cowboys have when it comes to all things Cowboy, Jerry world, where he's like, the grandfather, the father that believes that he needs to mentor everybody or have the last word or be the guy that is the voice of reason or the voice of knowledge, right? And what makes this difficult, Jose, is that Jerry Jones is a smart guy when it comes to football. He does know football. He played football, right? He's played in college. He's been that guy. So, I mean, it's they're between a rock and a hard place, I guess, is the way I'm going to say this. And especially given the landscape that is the NFC right now, specifically, not just the whole NFL, the NFC, it's not getting any easier for the Dallas Cowboys.
Any stretch, right? I mean, you have teams that are just flat out better, and they have a mountain to climb, I think, to get back to relevance when it comes to the NFC in the playoffs. The other big NFC hire, of course, has to do with my Detroit Lions. That, of course, is Chicago Bears. Right? They hired Ben Johnson. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion for everybody, whether you're in the media or a sports fan or an NFL fan or a Detroit fan or a Chicago fan or even a Raider fan, that Ben Johnson was not going to be staying as the offensive coordinator in Detroit. He was going to get a job, right? Obviously, once it was announced that Ben Johnson is the head coach of the Chicago Bears, it kind of stuck in the craw of a lot of Lions fans because it's in the division, right? Never great to hear that one of your coordinators is going in the division and will be competing with you. I take kind of another view of that where I'm like, look, you're an assistant, you're a coordinator, you're getting an opportunity at the big seat. Go take the opportunity, right? And make your own way. And the team, the Lions just need to deal with it, right? So have to get your take before we go to our first break on your thoughts with Ben Johnson, getting a head coaching gig with the Chicago Bears.
I like the hire. I mean, I think it's one of the most obvious hires, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't think there was anywhere else he really wanted to go. I don't think the Raiders were going to be a good fit, if I'm being honest with you. Probably just a name that was thrown out there. Yeah. I think the Chicago Bears are a good fit for him because he knows the division, Chris. You know what I mean? He's in between the same division that he's already played with. Now, the only thing that to me is still a wild card is Caleb Williams. Is how good is Caleb really going to be? He's a little erratic at times, but then at times he shows flashes of a possibility of being a great quarterback in this league, but yet he's still young. He's still going through the growing pains. A lot of people say, well, maybe the Bears are kicking themselves in the butt now for not taking Jaden Daniels. I think it's a bit too soon to talk about that. But I think the stupidest thing that Ben Johnson could have done, Chris, okay, at his press conference, why do you say, I had fun beating Matt LaFleur 2 years in a row? Like, I mean, or 2 years, twice in a season. Like, you don't say that. Yeah. Because what happens now if you guys lose to the Packers next season twice.
Well, it's both.
If the Bears
both had more material.
Exactly.
You need to do that.
It's going to be all over the place.
It's already bad enough. It's already the biggest rivalry in the NFC.
And not only that,
The Bears and the Packers. It's huge. Yeah.
You're going to a team that it's a dumpster fire right now, but yet that's what you had to say. I get it.
Yeah.
You want to ruffle the feathers. You want to, make some media calls out there, make it seem like, hey, I'm going to give you guys something to talk about. But maybe you gave them the wrong thing to talk about, because once that first game comes and they lose, then that bus and that train are going to get rolling. You know what I mean? So, but overall, Chris, I think it was a good hire. I think it's a hire that eventually can work because he's an offensive-minded coach. So we'll see what happens with him and Caleb Williams. But don't make it around Caleb. Make it around the team with Caleb.
I'll tell you though, I'll use the word deal breaker. When it came to Ben Johnson, right, he was looking for his gigs. I don't think there's any question. He's looking for teams that have potential at the quarterback position, right? And he came to Vegas, right? You saw the pictures of him and Tom Brady and the possibilities of him coming here.
Bro,
Look, let me tell you something. Ben Johnson was not going to a team that doesn't have a quarterback. He wasn't, okay? And say what you want, positive or negative, about Caleb Williams, there is still a view, okay? He's been in the league 1 year. There's still a view that Caleb Williams is a guy that could develop into a big-time franchise quarterback. I happen to be one of those people that agree with that. I think that Caleb does have some chances. Now, he had some moments this year where he was spectacular, but we shall see how that all shakes out. But I'm sure it's going to be extremely intriguing, Mr. Vellante. Those matchups in Detroit and in Chicago next year with the Bears and the Lions with Ben Johnson.
It's going to be a fun division.
In my opinion, the most influential coordinator in the NFL this season and last season as well, too, was Ben Johnson. And so him getting that gig is going to make it a lot of fun.
No bias on your end, right?
No. I want to blast the Bears every game anyway, so it doesn't make any difference to me. I want to beat them 50-0, no matter whether Ben Johnson's the coach or not. So that doesn't even really matter. We'll take our first break. It's Heatwave Sports coming away live here at Fox Sports Radio, 98.9, 1340 AM, 90.9 FM. Chris Winn, Jose Vellante in for Tim Unglesbee and Tom Barton. We talked about the NFC Championship. On the way back, the AFC Championship, much anticipated matchup between the likes of the Buffalo Bills and the 3-time now defending AFC champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. All kinds of things to talk about on this end, and also some AFC coaching changes as well, too, as we continue on your Super Sunday night. Thanks to Jess for making us sound good. Jose C. Winn back in the mix after this quick break.
NFL Conference Championships to find out who will go to New Orleans starting Sunday at 11 on ESPN Radio Las Vegas. Brought to you by Finley
Retweet.
We're here for you. Las Vegas, listen up. Jacob Taylor here. The new year brings new buyers, and demand for homes is skyrocketing. We need more homes to sell. This is your chance to cash in and make 2025 your most profitable year yet. Don't wait! We're Nevada's most trusted real estate team, and we've built 3 powerful systems to help you sell your home fast. Need cash now? We'll advance it to you, interest-free, in just 24 hours. Repairs in the way? We'll handle them all up front. Ready for an instant sale? We'll buy your house for cash in just 24 hours, as is, no repairs. Every moment you wait is an opportunity lost. Don't be the one saying, I should have called the real estate guy sooner. So dial 702-310-6683 right now. Call 702-310-6683 or visit therealestateguyLV.com today. Don't just sell, win! eXp Realty, license number 3886. Call for details.
You want to sell it fast, get the most cash. Talk to Eric Taylor, the real estate guy.
Frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Seminars can help. Join the over
my buddy is one of the Bills fans.
Mark Patrick Seminars with Feel Great Weight
See, man,
Loss
Jose V
results.
come
Mark
to
Patrick Seminars will be in Las Vegas on Thursday, February 6th.
That didn't help at all. A bunch of awful, bitter Bills fans.
Bridget, how much have you?
Who's your football team?
I bought the total of 80.
Holy cow.
It's easy. It's
What'd you
fun,
say?
very relaxing, and very
Which game
successful.
today?
And I would just
Well, who's your team overall? Like your NFL team
Only 49
that you root for?
Lose all the weight you
I
want.
don't have anybody.
100%
No.
guaranteed.
But you like football, though?
February 6th at the San
Who are you going for today?
Hotel and Casino in
Bills.
Las Vegas.
The Bills?
Weight loss
See, I'm a Jets fan, but I was rooting for the Bills today. Like,
Yeah.
as much shit as I talk about Josh Allen, I really wanted to fucking see him win today. I did.
Wanted to see it.
The
Yeah.
dude's so good, man.
There's limited seating, so
Like, it hurts. It's starting to finally hurt. Like, Like, I feel bad for the guy. He started to remind me of Jim Kelly. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I remember watching Jim Kelly as a kid lose 4 Super Bowls in a row. I mean, that was fucking. Oh, I don't know how he was able to do that.
Loud doesn't always mean right.
I'm live on the air right now, Fox Sports Radio here in town.
Find success.
Tune in, brother.
If you guys are watching, do us a favor. Press that like, drop that share, comment. We'll go from there. Let everyone know that you're tuned in to us tonight. We got our guy Tim Unglesbee, he's already on.
Nice.
He's watching it. So, Tim, hope you're feeling better, my man. If you guys want to drop comments in there, you can. We can see the comments and we can talk about them on the radio.
Hope you've recovered, Tim, like I have for the week of off that we after our team's lost.
So they don't do Saturdays no more, just Sundays?
Yeah. We can give a shout out to Willie Ramirez too because he's watching.
Okay.
The show's on Saturday.
It's on Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hungry to return to the top. All the action will start as they take on the defending champs, the Liberty, in New York on May 17th.
All right, back in 90.
Oh, man.
Bro, I remember the weekend years ago when I was interning for Feldman, when I did Heatwave on Saturday night after a Knights game, and then the very next morning I was here at freaking 7 a.m. to do Out of Line with Brian.
Damn.
Bro, I was so tired that weekend, but I had fun though, man. Those are good memories.
Tom Barton Sports doesn't claim to win something ridiculous like 90% of the time, but
And this will be the hard out
after month, year after year.
Coming up
Possibly win so
after this break.
And what time is like 56?
Oh, you'll get a minute music bed.
Studying teams,
Okay.
Yeah,
But
I'll
at
throw
56 though, right?
Yeah, I'll start at 56.
Okay, cool.
He has the time.
All right, Marty. Well, I'm ready to sign up. How do I make my future better?
It's really simple. Just go to TomBartonSports.com and sign up. There's no extra fees or phone calls at all. Every play is just right there available on the site or emailed to you.
Thanks again. It seems that Tom Barton Sports is the future of sports handicapping.
Tom Barton Sports is an informational site only and does not accept wagers.
Heatwave Sports will be live from the Las Vegas Strip Saturday night, February 8th from 10 p.m. to midnight. Join Tim Unglesbee, Tom Barton, and Chris Winn live from Boulevard Barbecue and Wings as they broadcast their straight up, as well as from a betting perspective. Special guests, free giveaways, food and drink specials, and come meet the Heatwave Sports team. Join us Saturday night, February 8th from 10 p.m. to midnight from Boulevard Barbecue and Wings, 3200 South Las Vegas Boulevard outside the Fashion Show Mall.
Now back to Heatwave Sports. Here's Tim Unglesbee and Tom Barton.
Well, on a Super Sunday night, it is Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, streaming on the World Wide Web at Las Vegas Sports Network. Chris Winn and Jose Vellante. Follow Jose at Jose_Vellante, right, on X.
Yes,
and you got us up bouncing around, right, when it comes to YouTube and social media all across, right?
You know me, man. Going back to when I first got up here doing my media stuff, I always like to put these videos and stuff out there. Just like to give people a little bit of a show behind the scenes. Of, people don't get to see the studio, but follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We're live right now. Our guy Willie G. Ramirez chiming in on the Facebook page. Straight Bet Sports is the Facebook and the YouTube page. Willie is on the YouTube page right now. Go ahead and drop us a like. Give us a little subscribe and drop us some comments in there. If you drop us some comments, me and Chris can see them. We can read them live on air as long as they're PG-13 acceptable. Obviously, we don't want to have any issues here.
And Pops Ramirez had some interesting and some solid takes when it comes to all things Aces. We'll get into it later on in the show.
Oh yeah, can't wait to talk to him.
Probably the second best dresser in Vegas media, right next to probably Brian Salmon.
Woo!
I say number two.
Willie, you said two.
You put Willie number one.
I say one.
I say number two.
I say one. We got a debate here, Willie.
Sometimes number one.
I think Willie's number one. I got to give it to Pops.
Philadelphia Eagles punched their ticket to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. They'll be taking on a familiar foe. Of course, that is the Kansas City Chiefs, as the much-anticipated, much-awaited-for matchup took place with Buffalo heading in to Kansas City on Arrowhead, Gemma Field, actually, they call it now, in a big-time matchup in the American Football Conference, and it was as expected, right, when it came to this matchup, when it came right down to the wire, essentially fourth-quarter games that are nip and tuck, where, one individual calls either way sometimes can make the entire difference in a football game. That was the case. Both teams trading 27 points in the second quarter, and then, of course, teams trading 18 points in the fourth quarter, including, monumental calls on plays that we're about to talk about. But in the end, the Chiefs get the win, 32-29, and now are headed to their third straight Super Bowl. And they're going to be trying to become the first team ever in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Yes, there have been some dynasties, right, Jose, in the National Football League, from the Packers to obviously the Patriots, the Cowboys, and the former Redskins and 49ers and beyond. The Chiefs trying to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl and an opportunity to make history and unceremoniously oust the Buffalo Bills, I believe, for 5 straight seasons. They have knocked Buffalo out of the playoffs. Josh Allen, one of the sport's best signal callers, is no longer in the postseason as Kansas City gets this W, and they do it in solid fashion.
I feel bad for Josh Allen, Chris. I told you this during the break, and it's becoming to one of those things where I'm one of the biggest Josh Allen haters, and you guys know that if you know me. I'm a big Jets fan, so I'm never going to root for the Bills. But today I found myself rooting for the Bills. And with all due respect, 32-29, did we expect anything else? I mean, if you're a gambler, if you bet the under 49.5, what were you thinking, first of all? We knew this game was going to go over. We knew there was going to be a lot of firepower. Both quarterbacks got close to basically breaking all of their prop records for the game today, if you were a bettor on that side, on the prop side. But just overall, Chris, it was a game that lived up to the hype, and it's a game that you want to see in the AFC Championship game. The thing about the championship games before you get to the Super Bowl, they're probably some of the toughest games that you're going to play all season because everyone is going to give it all they have to make it to that final game. But we're talking about people now, talking about Patrick Mahomes, possibly the next greatest quarterback of all time, surpassing Tom Brady. I think we got ways to go there. But what he's doing at the age that he's doing it, Chris, it's unheard of. It's unbelievable, and it's fun to watch. And today, the first thing that I was looking at was the refs, right? Was the calls. What are we going to get here? Are we going to get some stuff? Are we going to get some things where we're going to scratch our head? And in the beginning, Chris, it kind of felt like the refs were there for Buffalo a bit. Like, there were some calls where you're like, okay, looks like Buffalo's going to get some calls today. Looks like the Chiefs aren't going to get everything their way. But then the game settled down and it became more of a football game. This was not a game where you left it in the refs' hands, in my opinion, like some other games have been. Now, I know you're talking about some calls, but overall, I thought it was a good game. Oh. I feel bad for Josh Allen, though, because he's giving me Jim Kelly vibes, and I hate that. You know what I mean? Seeing Jim Kelly and what he went through with those 4 Super Bowls in the 90s when I was a kid was rough, but fun to watch because you like to see a loser at the same time, and it sucks now. But I hope that eventually Josh Allen does get over that hump. I don't think you have to put this on Josh Allen's shoulders. You can't say that this loss is on him. Look at his stats. Look at what he did. And look at what he did all season, Chris. Protected the ball better than he has throughout his whole career. Cleaned up things that were hurting him throughout the season. Just got to get over that hump, man, and you got to get that Super Bowl. And unfortunately, it was not to be this year.
I want to slide back to a couple minutes ago, my friend, because I want to jump on this just a little bit more and chop it up about this, all right? Because it's been a narrative, right, that's been talked about for the last 3 weeks, the last 6 weeks, the last 10 weeks when it comes to NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's calls, it's referees, it's officiating. Jose, and to Heatwave Sports Nation out there, hit us up on Twitter. You can find me at Christian Winn. You can find him at Jose_Volante. You can find us at HW Sports, Heatwave Sports, on X.
Give us your thoughts, please.
Talk to me, Jose. Is this that? Look, I get it. There's been this discussion across sports radio, sports television for weeks regarding this Kansas City Chiefs and officials. You've seen the memes. You've seen all the video, all the pictures about what's going on. And yes, there's been a handful of calls, okay, that have been suspect, let's say, right? Or have gone towards, gone the Chiefs' way, all right? And then you had what transpired tonight, which was a hugely monstrous play on 4th down in the 4th quarter in a game in which the Bills were clean to a 22-21 lead in this game. And the Bills, I'm going to put this on the Bills and their offensive coordinator a little bit here as far as play calling, because Josh Allen's a talented guy when it comes to running the football. There's ways you can get him out. You can sprint him out, right? You can put him in situations where he's sprinting out and rolling out and put him in various situations, right, where his rushing ability can help you. And instead, what do? They end up, basically pulling a delayed draw up the middle, okay? And you get a call, which you have one official essentially running down the line and giving him the first down, because where he's running down the line is where they are going to mark him, and it was past the first down marker. You have another official in the game, okay, who had it as a change and turnover on downs because he felt that Josh Allen didn't make the line, okay? And so they go to commercial break, obviously, and they come back, and it's determined that there was video evidence that he had actually not crossed the line. I didn't see any of that video evidence because all I saw as I was covering the Vegas Golden Knights game, and there were multiple monitors there in the press box, of course. No disrespect, Golden Knights and your fans, but hey, there was an AFC Championship game going on, and there didn't look like any evidence, okay, that could be changed the call that he had a first down, right? And so to me, it seemed kind of fishy. But I got you. Is it really a thing that we're talking about with the Kansas City Chiefs, where the refs are on their side and they're getting the benefit over the top for a team that is as great as they are and that has the accomplishments that they have? Is it really something? Is it a thing? I guess, Jose, is what I'm asking when it comes to this.
Yeah, the LeBron effect is real in the NFL, and it's alive with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we saw it all season long. Now, did we see it in this game? I don't really think so, if I'm being honest with you. Did we see it in these playoffs? Yes, obviously. We saw it in the game against Houston for sure. You saw some calls that made you scratch your head like crazy. But yeah, overall, it's there, Chris. Why is it there? Why is it happening? Who knows? The only thing that I can think of is obviously maybe the refs are afraid to go against the Chiefs because they are the champs. Maybe they don't want to hear it. Maybe they're like, hey, you know what? They've earned that respect. But at the end of the day, there is no earning respect when it comes to the refs. Everyone should respect the refs regardless of the fact, and calls should be all given equally. And with all due respect, that was not done all season with the Kansas City Chiefs. It was obvious, Chris. If you're a football fan, even if you're not a fan of the Chiefs, or if you are a fan of the Chiefs and you know football, then you saw what happened all season long, Chris. The Chiefs were favored with the refs all season. Why are all those memes out there? You saw the jersey swaps? Did you see that meme with the jersey
I've seen
swap?
all the stuff.
And
I've reposted a lot of stuff because it's hilarious. I actually have.
Did you see the one with Andy Reid pregame?
Yeah. But you saw it in the pregame coin toss.
All that stuff.
You got the Kansas City guys in jerseys with referee jerseys on, essentially. But get back to what you just said, though, about this game.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I think there wasn't necessarily. There was also some missed calls when it came to the Buffalo Bills in this game, right? Missed face masks in which defensive players of the Bills weren't called on certain plays. So I think there was a little bit of back and forth between these two teams. Now, going back to this game, of course, drama in the fourth quarter. You have a situation where the Bills end up being down 27 to 19 or 27
29-32
or 29-22. They're down, and big time play as Josh Allen ends up finding Curtis Samuel in the back of the end zone there to get this game
on fourth down. Amazing,
because if they don't get that, then it doesn't create as much drama here late in this game as it did. Of course, they end up kicking the extra point to tie the game up, and of course Harrison Butker gets the field goal that ends up being the winning field goal. But the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they had chances in this game to, I'm not going to say pull away, but they had more chances, I think, from an offensive standpoint. And now we're going to get to my gist of this game and my take on this game. I think that matters. Kansas City Chiefs, their defense needs to get credit, okay? We all love to talk about Pat Mahomes, and obviously he is the guy in the NFL. Sorry, Josh Allen fans. Sorry, Joe Burrow. Sorry, any other quarterback in the league. Pat Mahomes is the guy right now. You pointed it out. He's still in his prime, by the way, so he's still going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
Pat Mahomes is the guy. And, obviously they have Travis Kelce, who's been, like, their number one receiver, okay? Stop with trying to make, Xavier Worley the number one receiver. I think he's a nice player, and I think he can be a solid player in the NFL and a solid receiver. I don't think he's the number one, okay? Juju Smith-Schuster is not a number one receiver in the league. But they're playing for the Chiefs, so and you're playing with Pat Mahomes, and you've got Kelce out there, to to create not a diversion, but he's obviously a very important weapon for that team. And it's an offense, obviously, it's been prolific. They've been talked about as one of the best offenses of all time over the past, 4, 5, 6 seasons. We get it, okay? But let me tell you something, and this may be a hot take, Jose. You may not agree with it. Kansas City Chiefs don't make this Super Bowl, and they do not make this run without this defense. They just don't, okay? The defense is absolutely positively unsung. They have, obviously, Christian Jones. They have some guys who are named guys, but I think that people sleep, and I say people, I'm talking about NFL fans and the media, kind of sleep on what this defense brings to the table and how instrumental they are with this team and in its success and their ability to get to this third straight Super Bowl.
Chris, and the crazy thing about it is that you don't even hear the name of the person that's at the helm of this defense.
Right.
You have a guy like Steve Spagnuolo that's running this defense for the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy that we know what he can do, what he's done in this league, his pedigree, his experience. So to have Kansas City do what they did this year on defense, Chris, is amazing because if you look at them on the offensive side of the ball, they kind of had that regression, right? They kind of took a step back in a bit. Patrick Mahomes wasn't the Patrick Mahomes of other years. Didn't make the Pro Bowl. Didn't get selected to that roster this year. Mm-hmm. Something that for some people is kind of hard to believe because, oh my God, he's Patrick Mahomes. But let's be real. That offense didn't have that year that we expected them to have. And it's funny because they kind of had that Tyreek Hill year. And what I mean by that, the year after Tyreek Hill left, they didn't skip a beat. They looked great. But this year, they kind of had that, right? Where they were kind of searching for who's our number one guy. Yeah. When is Travis going to be back to what he was? Is he still going to be who he was in the past? We don't know what that is, right? But we saw what the Kansas City defense can do. But again, it's still Patrick Mahomes, though, Chris. I understand the defensive side of the ball. I get that. But when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, all you're going to be talked about, all the eyes are going to be on is Patrick Mahomes in that offense and who's going to come up, who's going to score. Today, freaking Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco, I thought was going to get more of the ball today and do a lot more. Mm-hmm. Completely killed. Didn't do anything. Kareem Hunt comes out, has a great game. So this offense, I think, is finding a way to work with each other no matter who the guys are. Kind of like when Tom Brady was in New England. Tom Brady can play with anyone on the offensive side of the ball. He had so many different receivers throughout his career. I think Kansas City has gotten to that where they understand it all revolves around Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't matter what other receivers we have. He'll figure it out. But that defense, if that defense keeps it up, I think that they can do something in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia. I think Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley won't have that easy of a time being able to run the ball. So schemes are going to have to be created. Game plans are going to be made up. So it's going to be fun to watch coming into Super Bowl Sunday in a few weeks, Chris.
I find it fascinating that this is a Kansas City Chiefs team that was able to basically lose one game during the season. Yes, I understand that they lost to a bunch of guys that are probably working at Walmart right now, okay, in the Denver Broncos in the final game of the season that didn't mean anything, right? And they didn't play anybody and got shut out like 45-0 or whatever it was. Point being is this.
38-0. The reason I know that I didn't hit my parlay.
The over. The only reason you know is the over is for gambling purposes only, right?
We're in Vegas.
So
that's how we link the games together.
And by the way, we're going to get into this when it comes to Super Bowl because we have some numbers to break down. But the point being is this. Offensively, this year, it wasn't an offense that was necessarily clicking on all cylinders because some guys were hurt at times, right?
Yeah.
You had Isaiah Pacheco not, in the lineup all the time. And that's why I think Kareem Hunt was kind of had a resurgence, right? Like Kareem Hunt pretty much had a resurgence in the backfield. But you didn't think about the Chiefs as a team that necessarily was, one of the top backfields in the league. You're not thinking of them like the likes of Derrick Henry or even in Detroit, right, with Gibbs and David Montgomery and obviously with Saquon in Philadelphia. You don't think about them like that, right? Travis Kelce, another guy, for a lot of you fantasy heads out there, right? Like I did, if you had Travis Kelce, he was kind of hit or miss all season long as well, too, where he wasn't exactly ultra productive as well, too. So it goes back to your point that Patrick Mahomes is extremely important when it comes to this offense, and how he goes is how this offense goes. And when you're talking about big games, and obviously the AFC Championship, divisional round, and now going into the Super Bowl in a rematch from 2 years ago, these are big games, and Pat Mahomes shows up, Jose Volante, in big games. So, as I just said, it's a rematch from 2 years ago when the Kansas City Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in what they're trying to make a three-peat in this run. In that game, they rallied from a 24-14 halftime deficit in which Butker ended up hitting that 27-yard field goal for the 38-35 win in that game. Obviously, it's the NFL. We're 2 years later, so there's going to be some changes. One guy, on a side note, I think that maybe is a kind of kicking himself in the backside, Jose, Jason Kelce, right? Jason Kelce retires, and what do? They're back in the Super Bowl the year he retires.
Could have played his.
I'm not saying anything against Jason Kelce. I'm just saying, darn it for you, man. You could have been there. You could be playing in the big game. And I know you still have some fire and something left in the tank, even though he's killing it in the whole media game.
He got his chip.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that you've got two teams, and right now you're looking at some lines, right, Jose? You could see the Chiefs essentially are consensus 2-point favorite so far in this game, in this tilt, between two, in my opinion, very evenly matched teams, but with dynamics that are extraordinary and intriguing as all get out, because you get the feeling, and I don't know about you, but I do, that if some of the stronger parts of these teams come and show up big time, what I'm talking about is that KC defense, and I'm talking about that Kansas City offense, and I'm talking about Saquon Barkley, I'm talking about Jalen Hurts being a dual threat, just absolute nightmarish problem for Kansas City. If these things come down the pike for either one of these teams, either one of these squads could end up hoisting the Lombardi Trophy.
So line opened up at -1.5 for the Kansas City Chiefs, over and under 49.5. Line has grown up half a point. We're sitting at -2 right now, but it's still a lot of time to go. Obviously, prop bets are still waiting to be made, things of that nature. So the market is going to grow when it comes to the Super Bowl. So I'm curious to see where bettors are going to start when it comes to this line, Chris. Are we going to see a lot more money on the money line side of it? And the reason I say that, we have such a small line, -1.5, -2. Some people will jump on the money line there and not even risk that point and a half and getting stuck. So my thing is, I want to see where the money's going to end up. Are we going to get more spread tickets? Are we going to get more money line tickets? And if so, sharps, over-the-counter bettors, the casual bettor, where is all of that action going to be? To be honest with you, me personally, I like Super Bowls that come out with these type of lines, these smaller lines. It makes it more interesting on how you're going to take your bets going into the Super Bowl, because we might even see a flip. What do we get eagle money and this flips to even? To pick them. We don't know that. Anything is possible when it comes to that. You're looking at it right now. It's pretty much 50-50. Yeah. Almost. Obviously, it's early. It's only been a few hours since the lines have been out, Chris. But I like where the line is sitting at right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at that total. I kind of like the 49.5 right now. If you're a bettor and you like the over, I would take it now. Because if anything, you might get a higher line. I think people might jump on the under, though, just because it's the Super Bowl. Yeah. Every time the Super Bowl comes around, people are like, oh, it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be a lot of defenses. And let's be real. Philly's defense is no joke either. They're pretty decent. They can come out here and try to stop Kansas City and what Patrick Mahomes and they want to do as well. But I like where the line is at, 49.5. I like that. Real quick, Chris, you talked about it earlier. They've already beat Buffalo twice in the last 7 years in the AFC Championship game. Yeah. Think about that. Tom Brady didn't even do that.
Yeah.
This kid has been in the freaking AFC Championship game 7 years in a row. That is insane just to think of, and he's going for his possible three-peat, Chris.
You gotta feel. I gotta do this with our resident other Detroit Lion fan here at Lotus Broadcast. Of course, we also have a couple. We have Clay Baker, and we also have, of course, Brian Feldman, who hosts the show Out of Line in the mornings, right on Sundays. And making the comparisons is always a difficult thing with the Lions and the Bills, because neither team's won a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And the Bills, in my estimation, they've been to multiple AFC championships. They've been to a lot of Super Bowls, and a lot in a row, right? And have not had a chance to win it.
Yeah.
So there is this feel as a lifelong Lion fan since the late 1970s, since before Jose was born. And only been to the NFC Championship game twice in that time period, and only since last year did we really have a real shot to get to the Super Bowl. The last one, of course, was in 1991 against those Redskins, where the Redskins just blasted us in RFK Stadium, the old RFK Stadium, back in 1991. We didn't have a chance. The point I'm trying to make is this. Lions fans, they're upset, obviously, because it looked like a dream season almost that got derailed by a lot of things. But the Bills, up until today, Jose Vellante, had a chance. Up until today, had a legit chance to not just get to New Orleans in the Super Bowl, but to win it. and to exercise the demons, right? And to bounce all of that out. And, of course, they end up in a situation where you have to go on the road against a conference rival, which you haven't had success against in very recent history, okay, meaning the last 4 years. Resident Heatwave Sports Buffalo Bills fan Matt Visca points out they got knocked out 4 years in a row. I think I said 5. The point being is that I feel for the Bills fans, Jose, because as a Lions fan, the Bills were just so much closer most of the time than the Lions were. So we have the Super Bowl set, my friend. Super Bowl 59 goes down. New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Kansas City will play for the opportunity to host the Lombardi Trophy. Hour number 1 is in the books, Jose Vellante. Chris Winn, Jose here, coming at you live. Heatwave Sports, Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM. On the other side, that's some coaching changes, folks, around the NFL in the AFC, and particularly here in Vegas. And it's not just a head coach, folks. It's also a GM. Much more on the way as we continue hour number 2 of Heatwave Sports on the other side of the break.
Would not be injury law. Imagine you've been
very like a William
an assembly line law firm that treats you like a number and settles early for easy money. Hell no. You want an attorney who does everything in his power to translate knowledge and experience into
since he got them 2 years. Oh, so 4 out of 5 years. Right. So that's right. Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl.
702 injured.
Cincinnati beat Buffalo?
Yes. No, Cincinnati beat
Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then,
like the Raiders, the Rebels, Pro
Yeah.
Soccer, and
okay.
2022.
Yeah.
And then the next year, Cincinnati lost to Kansas City.
No, but the last 5 years, Buffalo has lost to Kansas City in the playoffs. Just Kansas City beat them in division.
Got it.
In the divisional.
Got it. Yeah, so that makes sense.
From shareable bar bites to breakfast, flatbread pizza, and monster-sized burgers. This is your sports viewing headquarters. The Tailgater Tavern at Russell
Yeah, I think it might be wonderful because 2 weeks to prepare. Defense has got 2 weeks to prepare.
You think so?
So, like you said, on the air, I think it might be under. But then again, you see this, and you're like,
immediately notice its beautiful
You got good defenses, but they can still go.
Yeah.
experience how smooth it is.
Because you still have these offenses that can fucking just, in the blink of an eye, bro, just
100%
bomb.
all-natural handcrafted comisario tequilas, blanco, reposado, and añejo.
Dude, so check this out. We were in Mexico on Monday, and I was watching the national championship game, and I had already bet it.
Yeah.
I had Notre Dame plus 8.5 over 46. I already got the over. Notre Dame's covering, right? They're up by 9. 3rd and long. Right before the play, my son looks at me and goes, "Dad, who do you got in this game?" And I tell him, and I was like, "Fuck." My wife goes, "What?" I'm like, every time Jordan asks me who do I have in the game, I end up losing. She goes, "No, don't say that." I'm like, "No, I'm not saying he's a jinx. I'm just, it's happened."
Yeah.
Bro, the very next play, 3rd and long, fucking Will Howard goes deep to Smith on the sideline. The dude catches it, gets tackled at the 9. I'm like, that's it. They get the field goal. They win by 12. There goes my cover. I was like, oh,
damn.
Couldn't believe it.
ZipZap provides free towing and diagnostics.
That was a great national championship, though.
No
I
appointment
know.
necessary. 24-hour
Minus
service. ZipZap Auto at Cheyenne
Or no,
and
minus
North
8, minus
Durango
8,
Drive.
right?
And
No, minus
online
8.
at ZipZap
So, like, I got
I
it,
got
bro.
8.5.
I had a minus 8, and you know everybody's going nuts, right? When,
Right here on Fox Sports.
Notre Dame goes down and scores that touchdown, because it ends up being a push for the people at 8, and it means it's a loss, because a lot of people at 8.5. There's a lot of people that got it right at kickoff, and it was 8.5.
I got 8.5.
Yeah. So people were pissed, bro.
KRLV Management or any of their advertisers. Heatwave Sports will be live from the Las Vegas Strip Saturday night, February 8th.
All right, so we're going to this AFC coaching thing. So we'll go in order. We'll go to Patriots, right? Mike Vrabel, your thoughts, and hiring Josh McDaniels back. Then we'll go to Liam Cohen. I don't know if you know much about Liam Cohen. I mean, he's
giveaways, food and drink specials, and come meet the
He's the guy from Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
I mean, hey, look what he did with Baker this year. Wasn't Baker the second most touchdowns in the league or something like that?
Fashion Show Mall.
Got Mike Evans to 1,000 again. I mean,
yeah.
Look what he did with Bucky Irving. I mean, yeah, bro. I mean, can't discredit that guy.
Wait, Brian Callahan's new too, right? Sunday night, coming away live here from our West Las Vegas studios. It is Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM. You can find us on the World Wide Web, nationwide, at the LasVegasSportsNetwork.com. My co-host, Jose Vellante, he's got us posted up all over the place when it comes to YouTube, across the board to X. You can find him at Jose_Vellante. We're also all over Facebook as well, too, for all the old heads out there, myself. I'm Chris Winn, in for Tim Unglesbee, Tom Barton, both out. I hope they're both feeling better, as banged up a little bit. As
how are you feeling though with that mic over there? That mic's giving you a little bit of a
this is bad. And you know what's great about this is that we're also live on video too. We're on the air. But I am holding strong, my friend. This is what a professional in radio does, my friend. It's not even like a second thought. I understand that there's like a screw up there that's holding the microphone up and that's not there anymore right now, but I'm still holding it up, and I'll wait till I start bouncing it over to you and actually get to a point. But we have the Super Bowl set, right? Yeah. Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles will be going head-to-head. But when it comes to the rest of the NFL, it's all about coaching changes, right? It's all about personnel changes. It's all about players going to new places. It's all about new general managers. It's all about getting ready for the draft. And in the AFC, a team that was once a dynasty, obviously, right, in the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, no longer the head coach there. After one season, their head coach is unceremoniously bounced out of there in Foxborough, and now it's time to move on, Mr. Vellante. And what do? They move on to a former Patriot, as Mike Vrabel, longtime coach, of course, in the NFL with the Tennessee Titans, and also an assistant coach around the league. He's hired now as the new head guy in New England in a division that Jose Vellante knows well as a New York Jets fan. And, of course, we had talked about how the Buffalo Bills are now the cream of the crop, really, in that division, if we're being completely honest about all things there. And you've got the Miami Dolphins there as well, too. But got to get your immediate take, Jose, as the resident AFC East guy on all things Mike Vrabel as the head coach for the Patriots.
Best hire of the offseason, by far, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's one of those hires that you kind of saw it coming. I know people were talking about Mike Vrabel was going to make his rounds, possibly talk to the Jets, maybe even the Raiders. Don't get me wrong. Me as a Jets fan, I would have loved to see Mike Vrabel. But at the end of the day, I'm a true football fan at the end of the day, Chris. And I think this move fits and it makes total sense for the New England Patriots. Now, the first thing that I did think of is something that I always say is we're going backwards, right? We're getting stuck in the Bill Belichick era. But I don't think they're necessarily doing that because, yeah, these are his disciples. Yes, they were under his coaching tree, but they also played with him, right? Now, you even mentioned McDaniels coming back in as the offensive coordinator. I think that's a great move. We know what he can do and what he has done when he's been in New England with that job. He's not a great head coach, and we know that. But when it comes to being an offensive coordinator, pushing those buttons, running those plays, calling those shots, Chris, on the offensive side of the ball, there's no doubt about what McDaniels can do in New England. So I think the fact that Mike Vrabel comes in to his second coaching stint as a head coach in the NFL, and obviously still staying to the AFC and still in the division that he played in, he knows, he understands, with an owner and a fan base and a tradition that he knows about, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to bring in a guy like McDaniels that's going to help you, like a cushion that blow, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that, you're not going to come in full force and not know what you're getting yourself into and then kind of have the situation that happened with Gerard Mayo. I don't see that happening. I think the fact that you bring in McDaniels is the best thing that you can bring in right now. It's going to help ease that offense. I think McDaniels will do a good job with Drake May. Drake May is still something that's there, that's going to process, that's going to get better. I think he's very talented. He is that NFL pro-style quarterback that some organizations want. And I think this is a guy that Josh McDaniels can work with, that can coach with. And it's going to alleviate some of that pressure from Mike Vrabel. Mike's a defensive guy. We know that. Great defensive player when he was with the Patriots. I think him being there, being able to control that defense, be able to have more of the defensive side of the ball on his shoulders and kind of relieve some of the offensive side to McDaniels, it's going to be a match made in heaven, in my opinion. And again, I'm a Jets fan. I know the division. I think by far, not only for the New England Patriots and for the AFC East, but for all of football, to me, this is the best hire so far and the best fit out of all of the hires that we've seen so far, Chris.
Sometimes familiarity can go both ways, right? It can be something that can be beneficial to you, right? Because you have a routine, You understand what the people around you expect out of you, or what your expectations are for yourself in that moment. And with Josh McDaniels, obviously, Mike Vrabel, they kind of know what the quote-unquote Patriot way is.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that can be beneficial. There's also the argument that it goes stale, right? And sometimes you need a fresh start, right? And need to go to somewhere else maybe to get an opportunity. I understand that, but I think when it comes to all things Patriots, I mean, they need to have some type of continuity, right? And when it comes to the likes of Drake May, I'm one of those guys that's in on Drake May. I think Drake May, much like I think of Caleb Williams, not the same as far as talent level. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think that Drake May has an opportunity to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL, much better than Mac Jones, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going in the right direction there. Obviously, you like what they get out of a Vegas kid, by the way, and Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield. I think he's solid, kind of another unsung kind of running back in the league. And they have some other pieces. They have to go into the draft and get some wide receivers, obviously, and get some other pieces. But that being said, I think the Patriots have an opportunity. Now, here we go, Jose. In that division, of course, are the New York Jets, your New York Jets. And Robert Saleh, of course, where there's all kinds of discussion throughout the season with respect to Saleh as the head coach there and his limitations and things that it's the New York media, right, Jose? So everything gets amplified 100 times, right? And it gets overstated. A friend of mine, Jake Asman, I think you may know Jake as well too, does a great job on all types of mediums. When it comes to talking about the New York Jets, he's a New York Jets guy, grew up there. So he is someone that is in the know. Obviously, Tom Barton, host here, is in New York, so he's well aware of kind of that dynamic in New York. Now they hire Aaron Glenn, okay? Obviously, defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. And there was an expectation in Detroit, and especially whether it was the organization or in the media, that they were definitely losing Ben Johnson, but they might still be able to keep Aaron Glenn. Not the case. He's headed to New York. By the way, obviously, you as a Jets fan, remember him in the defensive backfield for them. Played for the Jets, so he's well aware of kind of what he's going into. Your reaction, having a former player and a guy who was great for us here in 2024-25 with the Detroit Lions as a defensive coordinator, bumping up to the head coach of your NFL franchise.
I don't like it, and I don't like it for Aaron Glenn. It's not that I don't like it in general. I'm not saying that I don't think he would be a great coach, but I think that the New York Jets right now are in such shambles, Chris, with everything that's going on with Aaron Rodgers. We don't know if he's going to be back, if he's going to retire, if he's going to try to go somewhere else and play another year. And I don't blame him for any of that. I think too many people are on his back for way too many things. And like he says, some of these people don't even know me. And I think that the whole Aaron Rodgers thing has to go away. And again, nothing negative towards him. I just think he needs to ride off into the sunset, go somewhere else, let this organization start all over again, right? And that's the thing. The New York Jets don't have good ownership, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of Johnson at all. I don't like Woody. I think he's got to stay off of Twitter and become more of an owner instead of on social media trying to talk to the whole world about what he's doing. But to be honest with you, the reason I don't like to hire Chris, it's another defensive guy. It's another defensive guy that we're hiring that has not worked. We hired Todd Bowles, it didn't work. We hired Robert Saleh, it didn't work. When are we going to get away from these defensive? Rex Ryan, with all due respect, didn't work. So when are we going to get away from these defensive-minded guys and start bringing in someone on the offensive side of the ball? We've had talent. We've drafted talent on the offensive side of the ball. We've traded for talent. But yet we can't seem to get someone on that side of the ball. So now that you're Aaron Glenn, you need to find a great offensive coordinator. Let me rephrase that. Not a good one, a great one. Because we know what Aaron Glenn can do on the defensive side of the ball. We saw what he did with Detroit. And not only that, he paid his dues. So he got there the right way. Some people saying maybe it was too soon for him to get hired. No, not at all. I think it was the right time. He deserved it. But in my opinion, if I was Aaron Glenn, I would have waited. I would have stayed with Detroit one more year, kind of like what Ben Johnson did last year, and see if that job that you want opens up. Now, hey, maybe he did want to go back to the Jets. Only the second player, I believe, ever to go back to coach the New York Jets after playing there. Something you don't really see, obviously. Maybe he did want that. Maybe he wanted that challenge. But who wants to take the challenge of Aaron Rodgers right now, Chris? Think about that. Who wants to take the challenge of that circus? Because not only do you have to control the media, now you got to control your team as well. So I don't like this hire for Aaron Glenn. I think he should have waited one more year. The Jets are years, and I mean years, away from doing anything, with all due respect.
Yeah, I'll use the word concern, Mr. Vellante. Why do I say that? Because he goes from being a defensive coordinator to Detroit, where he's kind of like the third banana, right? You got Dan Campbell, you have Ben Johnson, who's just getting touted left and right about everything for the last 2 years, really, for head coaching jobs. And then you have Aaron Glenn, of course, who's the defensive coordinator, who kind of faced some adversity last year, because last year when the defense was struggling at times, he was kind of under fire, really, when it came to all things media in Detroit and media nationally, quite frankly, across the board. So you go from that into the firestorm that is the New York media, and I get it. He played there, so he knows kind of what he has to face and what he's about to engage in. But it doesn't get there until it doesn't hit you till you get there, right? And you're in that position. You're the head coach, and results matter, right? It's the National Football League. This isn't Pop Warner. This isn't high school football. The NFL, all that matters is winning, and in that division, it's beating the Dolphins, beating the Bills, beating the Patriots. That's all that matters, right? So I'm concerned that I don't know if he's yet up to the situation that's about to face him and that's about to smack him in the face. That's kind of the way I look at it when it comes to all things Aaron Glenn as the head coach of the New York Jets. The team that we're probably not talking about this hire too much, because it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're kind of the vanilla run of the mill NFL team that we think might go to London someday. Maybe they're the team that ends up in Mexico City. We never know, because their owner owns about 3 other sports franchises, and there always seems to be all kinds of things going on with this team. But Liam Cohen gets hired by the Jacksonville Jaguars to be the head coach. Pretty young guy, right? Hasn't even hit 40 years old yet. He's coached in the NFL basically for a few years. He was the the offense coordinator in 2022 in Los Angeles with the Rams, and then a couple years later he ends up being the offense coordinator with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady has a relationship with him and knows him, but extremely, extremely green is what I'll say. Okay, and now he is the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Most of his experience was in college as an assistant coach. He went to college at UMass, by the way. Played back there in the mid-2000s. So shout out to him as a Minuteman back with in my old state where I went to college. But that's that's not the NFL. Liam Cohen, I don't know how much you know about Liam or about what his prospects are as a coach, but I'm sure there's positivity with respect to Jacksonville, what they expect to get out of him as a head coach. But to me, this is probably, going to be one of those you're probably going to be hired to get fired gigs when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite the fact they do have some pieces that you'd like, particularly on the offensive side of football.
Who do you feel bad for in this situation, though? Do you feel bad for Lawrence? Do you feel bad for Trevor at all? Because think about it. He's going into another head coach, another offensive coordinator, another scheme that he has to learn, but yet all we hear about is he's not the guy.
Yeah.
He's not going to pan out. He really isn't that good. I haven't jumped on that train just yet, Chris. I've never been a big fan of Trevor Lawrence, don't get me wrong, but I think that it's still too soon to basically give up on the kid. Right now, you're bringing in a guy that basically you saw what he did with Baker Mayfield this year. Baker second in the league, I believe, in touchdowns. Yep. We saw what he did with Mike Evans, helping him get another 1,000-yard season. And not only that, with the likes of Bucky Irvin, the running back like I was talking to you about earlier, the young kid, but a rookie, I believe, as well. To do that with that, those type of players on the offensive side of the ball, it's not unheard of with a young guy. And for you to go now to a place like Jacksonville, the first thing that it says is obviously I just want to be a head coach. And if this is the only team that'll take me, I'll take a shot. And if it works, then by God, it works. You have Brian Thomas Jr. on that team, Chris. Yeah. You have Trevor Lawrence on that team. If you can find a way to figure out the running game with Travis Etienne, or if not, bring someone in that can probably run the ball a little bit better, then maybe we can see some glimpses of what this team can be. But at the end of the day, they got to create some type of identity on offense, Chris. They got to protect Trevor Lawrence. They got to get a better offensive line. Their defense it's solid. It can be good at times, but it can also give you head scratches at times. But it's that offensive line. So if you're a first-time offensive head coach coming in to be a head coach of a team like the Tampa Bay Bucks, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, You have to find a way to solidify your quarterback and save your quarterback. If Trevor Lawrence is going to be your golden goose, like people are saying, oh, you're going to come in here, you have a guy, he just needs a little bit of sprinkling on there, a little bit of seasoning to get better, then you have to protect this guy. So I think his first order of business should be solidifying that offensive line, Chris. He gets that right, then maybe we can see what Jacksonville can do. But honestly, I'm not trying to basically put anyone down. I don't think we're going to see much from the guy in Jacksonville.
Hey, you talked about some of the bright spots when it came to the offense, right? Trevor Lawrence, look, the rubber's going to meet the road here in the next couple of years, right, with Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have to pay the piper. He's going to have to be a guy that shows that he deserves to be that guy that was the number 1 overall pick, that was thought of as a generational talent. He's going to have to step up and play better, okay? And they do have pieces, right? You brought up Brian Thomas Jr., monster rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons of any wide receiver in the history of the NFL, right? It just so happens that there's just other guys this year that also had, record-breaking years, and we're going to talk about the Raiders in a second. But they have Tank Bigsby. They have, as you brought up, Travis Etienne. They got Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk and some of these other pieces, Josh Reynolds. So offensively, they could be okay. I feel like they should be better, right? So bringing in Cohen as their head coach / probably going to be a play-calling offensive coordinator, then I think this is something that is a reason to look up if you're thinking all things Jacksonville.
And check this out real quick, because we were talking about Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Think about this. Just a year ago, I believe it was, or 2 years ago, you had Brian Thomas Jr., Jaden Daniels, and Malik Neighbors all on the same team at LSU.
Yeah.
It's crazy to believe how that much talent was on one team, and now it's scattered in the NFL. But it shows you how much more parity we're going to start having in the league. It's not going to be just a Kansas City Chiefs-driven league, hopefully, eventually down the road.
Yeah, no question about it. So speaking about the Chiefs, AFC West, here we go, Jose Volante. Lots of discussion, obviously, about all things Las Vegas Raiders in the offseason. Once it was determined that they needed a new general manager and a new head coach. And there's all kinds of different directions to go. We talked earlier about the Dallas Cowboys and the possibilities with Deion Sanders being the head coach in Dallas. Well, you multiply that by 3 or 4 times, and that's what the discussion was when it came to all things Las Vegas Raiders and Deion Sanders. Okay, there was also other names out there as head coaches that could possibly end up coming here. The idea that Mike Tomlin might look for another opportunity other than, being in Pittsburgh for decades, you know what I mean? And maybe he would take on the challenge of the Raiders. And then, they hired the general manager, right? Spytek ends up being hired as a general manager. Spytek has a history with Tom Brady, going back to Tampa Bay, actually going back to Michigan, when Spytek was a freshman, I believe, and Brady was a senior at the University of Michigan. That's how long they've known each other. Jeez. So that's kind of a great familiarity thing, and kind of a thing that could link up those two guys and be in sync, which could be good for the Las Vegas Raiders when it comes to upper management, i.e. Spytek as the general manager here in Vegas. But then, of course, the shift went to what? It went to the head coach. And bringing in a head coach that was going to be able to kind of weather this storm, Mr. Volante, that I say is Raider Nation, where there has been this collision of people in Las Vegas, California, you name it, wherever Raider Nation is, and it's everywhere, right? That doesn't know if this team is a rebuilding franchise or a team that is a couple pieces away or a team that could be an actual contender. Because, Jose, you and I both know, and everybody who listens to these airwaves here in Las Vegas know, that at the beginning of this season, in 2024-25 season, just a matter of months ago, there was credible people that were in the media, on the airwaves, fans, Raider Nation, talking about this franchise like they were going to the playoffs, okay? And that they were going to be a team that was going to be over 500 and in the mix, probably right behind the Chiefs, right, in the AFC West, along with the former San Diego Chargers, now LA Chargers, and, of course, the Denver Broncos, as to be, in the mix. And, of course, we saw what transpired. We saw the reality that took place. We saw how everybody was, basically smacked in the face with what actuality is. And that is that the Raiders are nowhere near that. Now we talk about positivity, right? Got some great pieces, right? Brock Bowers, I was not on board with the draft originally of Brock Bowers because I thought, I thought he's going to be a good, solid player. But taking a tight end that high when the Raiders had so many open places that they need to fix. And for them to take him, I was like, this feels all kinds of like a Raider pick from the 1980s and 1990s, where Davis just wanted a speedy guy, right? A guy that the fastest guy on the field.
I like that.
Right? So I eat my words, Mr. Vellante. I was wrong. Okay, Brock Bowers turned out to be, if you could argue, he's the best tight end in the league, right? As a rookie, and he's already the best tight end. You could argue that, all right? I personally don't think so, but he's right there. So you have some pieces, right? Obviously, Max Crosby got hurt, but Max Crosby's one of the best defensive ends in football. So that's a guy that's going to, and he's a leader on your defense. He anchors that defense. And so that's another piece also. They have a couple other pieces, too, also on defense that I like. But for all intents and purposes, Jose, and I know I'm getting long-winded here, but I'm leading up to it. This is a franchise that has all kinds of liabilities all over the rest of the field. Okay, whether it's a secondary, whether it's a linebacking core, whether it's a front seven, whether it's the running back situation, and yes, quarterback. All right? And, of course, now they hire Pete Carroll as the head coach. Obviously, everybody knows Pete from his days from USC with all his success there. Then he goes to the NFL. Actually, he goes back to the NFL, I should say, because he was the head coach of the Patriots back in the 90s, where they were decent, actually. But and ends up winning a Super Bowl, of course, in Seattle with Russell Wilson as his quarterback. And it is a monumental point in Seahawks history because it's the only Super Bowl they've ever won, and it happens to be Pete Carroll, the head coach. So he ends up basically not coaching anymore, and the Raiders decide to go this direction. He is now the oldest head coach in the NFL, okay? And he goes to a situation in which they have all kinds of rebuilding going on. It absolutely smacks, Mr. Vellante, of kind of a plug-in hire, kind of a place setter, call it what you will, a guy that's just, kind of basically holding the franchise together until they get to a point where they're actual contenders. It's kind of the way I look at it. Your thoughts on the hiring of Pete Carroll, the head coach, in all things silver and black?
It's a head scratcher, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, I get it. I understand it. I see where they're trying to get to. They're trying to get someone that has that pedigree, that's won championships, that understands this league, that can develop a quarterback. We saw what he did with Russell Wilson, drafting him so late when a lot of people passed on him and didn't expect him to do much after he had just signed Matt Flynn to that big contract after Matt was supposed to be the guy taking over in Seattle. That wasn't the case. We saw what he had there. I just think that it was one of those things where with ownership and Pete Carroll, they just weren't looking eye to eye anymore. And I think the way that he went out wasn't the way he wanted to get out. And I think that him coming back is not more of a basically saying, like, I still want to coach and I can coach. It's more of a, F you to Seattle. Like, hey, check this out. You guys are going to realize that you lost out on me by letting me go. I should have stayed here. I should have still been the guy. But I don't know about what you're saying about them setting it up, because if that's the case, then we got to wait and see who the guys are that he's going to bring in. Who's going to be your offensive coordinator? Who's going to be your defensive coordinator? Because normally those are the guys that are the ones that end up taking over, or the guys in waiting, as they say, right? So if this is going to be a 3-year job based off of the 3-year contract that they gave him, right? Because I believe that's what it is. Then who is going to be your coordinators? That's what I want to see. There's rumors out there already that supposedly he already has his guys, that he had his guys pre-picked since he left Seattle, just in case if he ended up getting another job, Chris. So think about that. This guy had a notebook with coaches that are either currently in the league or out of the league and was ready. Kind of like a roster. He already knew he was going to go out there and recruit basically and say, hey, I got a job now, come with me. So this goes to show you, if that's true and these reports are real, Pete's been waiting to come back to coaching since he left it.
Yeah.
So this isn't necessarily, in my eyes, a job where he's just trying to prove people wrong. I think he truly still has a lot left in the tank. This could be something like Dick Vermeil going to the Rams and when they did what they did. But Dick Vermeil didn't have a quarterback either. His quarterback got hurt. Different situation. Obviously, we know that. But the biggest thing for the Raiders, though, Chris, he has to come in here and create an identity. This team does not have one. They thought they had one with Antonio Pierce towards the end of the year, last year, smoking cigars and all the hoopla and hoorah-rah and we're Raider Nation and this and that and we're going to ride or die. That didn't work this year. They had no identity this year. The locker room looked confused. The locker room looked split. There was no disrespect being thrown or shade towards Antonio Pierce. But you know what? There was no actual piece in that locker room aside from Crosby that you can say there's leaders in this locker room. So I think they need to find an identity, and they need to find it now, and that's how we'll see what the Raiders can be moving forward with Pete Carroll.
And with Pete Carroll, look, he's a guy that's in his mid-70s, but doesn't he feels like a guy that's got a younger soul, right? He just seems like a younger guy. He's not a guy in his mid-70s who acts like he's 85 or in any type of physical condition, right? When you think about him like that, yeah. Like he seems like, and by the way, there's video of him out there slinging it around like he's a young guy, like he's a young quarterback.
Doing no-look passes too. You saw that?
No, the guy's out there.
Passes, yeah.
I was kind of impressed. I'm actually like thinking, hey, in 20 plus years, if I can be out there and doing the stuff that Pete Carroll was doing. But that being said, quickly on the quarterback position, right? Because obviously, you get Pete Carroll as the head coach, and you see what's going on in Pittsburgh, right, with Justin Fields and with Russell Wilson. There's this natural thing, and it's called media in 2025, right, where we start to talk about, wow, wouldn't that be kind of a nice fit to have Russell Wilson here in Las Vegas as the quarterback of these Las Vegas Raiders?
No.
No?
Don't do it. If anything, go after Justin Fields. I'm dead serious. If anything, go after Justin Fields. I still think Justin has a lot. I think he got the short end of the stick in Chicago, and I think he could be a.
Well, no. The thing is, though, the thought process is that the Steelers are going to roll with Justin Fields. Yeah. The Steelers are going to roll with Justin Fields,
and of course, the fan perspective is going to be
Wilson be gone.
Bring in Russell. Yeah. But here's the thing: do we know what that relationship was like at the end when Pete was on his way out of Seattle? That's the biggest question mark right there. You got to know what that relationship was. And honestly, we don't know what that relationship was towards the end, right? What if they had issues? What if they didn't? I don't want to see that. That's like, bringing in your old guys and trying to rekindle and see if it works. I think Russell can still be good somewhere else. Don't bring him to the Raiders. Don't do that. Don't do that, Pete. If you want to bring in a vet,
but Vegas loves drama, and the Raiders love drama.
Go after Sam.
Jose, you and I have been critical of Mark Davis, and rightfully so, right? When it comes to his NFL ownership, look, Mark Davis, good guy, right? He's way better of an WNBA owner than he is an NFL owner, if we're being completely honest, right? And so he's been he gets criticized because he's paying 4 coaches or whatever, and it gives the indication that he's not great when it comes to decision making, particularly when it comes to football related or even something close to football related. But they have to make a decision, right? When it comes to the quarterback, they're not going to roll with Aiden O'Connell, this year, are they? I mean, they're not. You can't. Can you?
You can't.
No.
It didn't work.
So you got to do something. Yeah, you have to do something. I don't know. We'll see. If the Raiders are going to be, look, they're in the AFC West, so I guess the silver lining is that you're not expected to be anything next year, even with Pete Carroll as head coach and Spytek now the GM. I mean, you're not expected to be a team that's going to be shaking things up or making a huge noise. I mean, if you go out and win 5 or 6 games, Spencer the Wiz on the show earlier today here on Fox Sports Radio, a Raider guy, is talking about 6 wins like it would be a monumental thing for the Raiders next year. So if that happens, I guess, okay, looking up, right? The grass, glass half full. If we're a Raider Nation out there, no problem at all. So we'll see how it shakes out when it comes to all things silver and black. But changes, new faces, and new places, always a good thing in the NFL. It's Heatwave Sports coming away live on a Super Sunday night. We'll take our final break. When we come back, I got some NBA notes to hit up with Jose. I got a couple things I want to bounce off and win this 2-game series over in Paris, over in France, Jose, with arguably a guy that's going to be the watermark when it comes to all things NBA for the next probably 15 to 20 years. Also, some news out of Los Angeles with the Lakers and the possibility of Jose Volante's Lakers and LeBron James parting ways. Could it happen? Say it ain't so, LA and Lake Show out there. Could he end up be heading north to the Bay Area? A couple of those talking points and much, much more as we continue on Heatwave Sports on your Sunday night. Chris Winn, Jose Volante coming away live. Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM. We'll be right back after this.
NFL to find out who will go to New Orleans starting Sunday at 11.
Well, to the Warriors.
We got to get some WNBA talking there.
Oh, yeah, that's why I would start with NBA, and I'll transition over to it.
Personal injury law.
To be honest with you, bro, NBA to me this season has been one of the most disappointing seasons in a long time. Like, I just don't feel the hype. I just don't.
In the conventional mold,
I don't know.
define success. Goodbye, false quick buck promises.
I'm with you. I got to look at the standings right now to see what's going on.
Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law.
Like everyone's on Cleveland. I think they're gonna crash and burn eventually.
With integrity,
Yeah. I mean, look, they're 4.5 games up on the Celtics right now.
champions for the underdog. Life happens, and when you need help,
Oh
you deserve a
man.
team without agendas. A team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. So if you've been hurt in a crash, call Sam and Ash, 702-303-0333. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Las Vegas, listen up. Aaron and Jacob Taylor here. The new year brings new buyers, and demand for homes is skyrocketing. We need more homes to sell. This is your chance to cash in and make 2025 your most profitable year yet. Don't wait. We're Nevada's most trusted real estate team, and we've built 3 powerful systems to help you sell your home fast. Need cash now? We'll advance it to you, interest-free.
Pistons, baby, in the playoffs right now.
We'll handle them all up front.
For
Ready
now.
for an instant sale? We'll buy your house for cash in just 24 hours. As is, no repairs. Every moment you wait is an opportunity lost. Don't be the one saying, I should have called the real estate guy sooner. So dial 702-310-6683 right now. Call 702-310-6683 or visit therealestateguyLB.com today. Don't just sell, win! eXp Realty, license number 38886. Call for details.
You wanna sell it fast, get the most cash. Talk to Aaron Taylor.
Yeah, see, Ben's on right now. Starts at 11.
Hi, it's Steve Mann.
Yeah. So
we
all the
got
other,
the first hour.
other affiliates. So yeah, as long as Heatwave's on,
$49.99.
whenever these guys are on, usually.
I thought, that's not even a week's worth of
He'll
smoking.
be
So I
on.
went.
He'll be on right after us.
He's got this guy. He's got this guy called Weed Man Hippie.
Mallard's so hilarious, bro. Dude, they were here, and I wanted to go to their
The Mallard
fucking.
meet and
They
greet?
had like a Mallard meet and greet here, and I wanted to go, but I had to work or something.
Bro, there are times where I gotta like change the station because they just go way the fuck off topic, and I'm like, this.
No, bro, he'll read my texts on the air, like because I'll
No,
DM
no,
him
he's that type
on
of
fucking
guy.
Twitter, and he'll fucking put my shit up. Like, Chris Winn from Vegas, because I was giving him shit because he was talking about how he's not a big college basketball.
Oh, I remember that. That's a couple months ago.
Yeah, and so I was like, dude, bro. He was like, there's nothing else going on except for I think the NFL, like Monday Night Football or something. And I go, what are you talking about, bro? It's the first night of college basketball. And by the way, here in Vegas, there was like 3 games.
Yeah.
And so he read the whole text on the air. I was like, oh shit.
Fans, not only can you hear all the Vegas Golden Knight games right here.
He's like, Chris Winn points out to me that yes, it was college basketball opening night tonight, and there's 3 games in Vegas. But you know how I am on college basketball.
Heatwave